Truth Frequency Radio Network. KTFRN. Worldwide.
Welcome, Shadowland Voyagers. In the spirit of sovereignty and self-empowerment, we invite you to journey with us into the Shadowland. Let's rediscover, reclaim, and integrate the fragmented aspects of our individual and collectively held consciousness. Realize true freedom and restore authentic expression. Could it be the only way out is through the Shadowland?
Good evening and welcome to Shadowland Voyagers. This is Elizabeth and we have Sienna Leia here with us tonight, and Christina, our other co-host, is on holiday and isn't able to be with us. Hi Sienna, how are you?
Hi Elizabeth, I'm fine. Thank you so much for holding this space.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I'm really excited tonight. The past few weeks we brought on a couple guests that have been anchors along the way, bringing their wisdom that sparked inner knowings. And tonight we're going to delve a bit deeper into the Shadowland and shed some light on the great work that comes calling to us eventually, to all of us eventually. And tonight we're going to honor your work and your book, Stealing the Moon. So I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis. I think we'll get started in that way. Okay.
Super.
Yeah. Stealing the Moon, Revelations of the Deep Shadow Self. Around 1350 BC, a pharaoh in Egypt called Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akenhaten and started the world in a new course. In most history books, he is revered and credited with introducing monotheism to the human race as a giant step forward in spiritual and religious theory. Stealing the Moon paints a very different picture of Akenhaten and his queen Nefertiti, suggesting the new course Akenhaten took was the true source of the suppression and degradation of women for the last 3,500 years. Based on the actual experience of its author, Sienna Leia and others, Stealing the Moon is called a work of creative non-fiction fiction based on fact. As the author explains in the preface, the relationships of Nefertiti, Akenhaten, and their daughters all came through the direct experience of Aisha Love, Sienna Leia, and the women and children and men who lived and worked with Aisha. It was a group dynamic that unearthed this hidden emotional truth of an epic still having enormous impact on humanity today. The focus of the book is Dr. Natalie Stern, a frustrated psychologist who meets her own dark side, face to face as she tries to emulate her mentor, Shimura. After one of her patients referred by Shimura sets his own hands on fire and later dies from the burns, and after Shimura's reputation is ruined and her funding dries up, Natalie has to acknowledge that her deep shadow self is intentionally destroying the very people who love and care for her. She disappears into a New Age retreat in Arizona in an attempt to find the source of her unconscious contracts with power, and finds herself transported back in time to ancient Egypt, only to discover that she and Nefertiti share a common bond of abuse and control from Akenhaten. Half of the book is a play called Stealing the Moon that exposes the real Akenhaten as a perverted, demented woman-hater who forces his 6 daughters to have sex with him and ends up in a homosexual relationship with his cousin. Natalie is given the task of transcribing the play as she watches it unfold in front of her as a way of breaking the curse that she and all women continue to live out in present time. Journey with Shimura, the inceptor of emotional quantum intelligence, as she counsels her protege nemesis Natalie to voyage into the deep shadow self, discover the new freedom hidden within its truth as Natalie is catalyzed into full-bodied release of power's hold on her divine feminine nature. We'll see you on the other side of our break. Thank you. Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers. So we're gonna delve into Stealing the Moon, written by Sienna Leah, our other host on Shadowland Voyagers. Sienna, I'm gonna jump right in. We have so much to cover. This book is juicy. Are you there, Sienna?
Yes, thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Oh,
I really appreciate you taking the time to focus in this area with me.
Yes, it brings about quite a interesting perspective on. It kind of draws out the games that are going on hidden. That are so hidden and forbidden to be spoken about. So this is quite a challenge to bring this about today, because we're talking about the relationships between men and women ultimately, and how the divine feminine was suppressed, and the divine masculine had been perverted. So this is quite a deep subject we're getting into. So I'm going to jump into my first question about the book. In the book, the main character is Natalie Stern, a psychologist who's working directly with people in mental institutions and assisting them with working through their traumas. Can you speak to what she found inside herself while working with others, and what was inside her that defiled her intentions to reconstruct the system of mental healing?
Well, yes, absolutely, Elizabeth. And I just feel like I need to back up, because we're broadcasting tonight. You might want to mute your mic. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay. Yeah, great. That's much better. Thank you. I'm feeling into the collective field tonight, and there's so much shock and pain and grief about the mass shooting in America at the high school there. And so many beautiful, innocent people, that incredible teacher that hid all of her students in the closet and lost her life around it. And I feel our hearts are so grief-stricken and shocked from this kind of cold-blooded, insane kind of terror, that how it's coming from the outside at this point. And we know a lot of the agendas behind it and all of this. But I think at this moment there's a collective yearning to transmute this to find a solution to stop this horrific brutality. And Elizabeth, that is really the reason that I wrote this book. And I feel that is the real depth of care and compassion that my mentor and dear friend, Aisha Love, who's now on the other side, came at everything that she did within the community and within her relationships. And this is to unmask this aspect of this, what Paul Liebe calls the Wedico virus, this aspect of evil that lives inside of us. We can't do much directly about the outer, although there are things that we can do. But this Shadowland voyaging that we have agreed to participate in is our attempt to find this evil within us. And you know, Elizabeth, how much resistance there is to this. And I'm feeling a huge resistance tonight in even talking about this, because we're talking about Egypt, and and I will get back to your question, but we're talking about Akenhaten and Nefertiti, and now we're very close to an end of an epoch and the beginning of an epoch. And they were in the same place where humanity was perched to make a quantum leap. And they were, our dear friend George Kavassilis has great respect for Nefertiti and Akenhaten. And I want to say that there's absolute reason for that. These were great beings who came here to hold a sacred energy of love and elevated consciousness. And this virus, whether you want to call it the Archons, the Illuminati, the Wedico virus, this agenda, the reptiles. I mean, there's this whole, the cabal, because it's all real, and it infected them. And it infected them in the place of their woundedness and their pain and their innocence, because they didn't see it coming. And they became conduits for the priestly caste, which was the cabal at that time, which was the consolidation of the dark power on the planet. So I just want to make it clear that stealing the moon is really not saying that these people were just sinister and evil people with evil intent. Not at all. They were coming from the highest spiritual principles and were taken down in the place of their blindness. And the same is true of Natalie. Natalie Stern was studying with Shamora, a great spiritually involved divine feminine goddess, and wanting to emulate her, feeling compelled to be by her side. And so there was an impulse towards the light, and then another impulse. She carried the memory of the archetypal demise of Nefertiti and Akenhaten through thousands of years within her, and was unwittingly living out the agenda of the bringing down the feminine, because we know that this was one of the huge vector points for infecting humanity with this virus of evil, and that's living off of the suppressed female essence that demonized the feminine, that made it absolutely bad, evil, and wrong to be a woman, to express our essence. And that was a very clever manipulation, because as long as we couldn't live it, then it's hanging out in the unconscious, and it was food for this reptilian agenda. And they've been feeding off of the female essence ever since. And I will shut up shortly. But just one more part about this, that this is really, in my prayer in response to this horrible shooting and this huge wave of violence right before December 21st, let us awaken to this within us so that we are no longer naive and blindsided by this agenda, and which is, I think, the mission and purpose of why we're coming together in the first place. So that was a very long answer to one question. I apologize, Elizabeth, but I just needed to contextualize what I'm experiencing in the here and now, because it's a really deep night of pain, of global pain. It's still waves of reaction to this shooting.
I'm grateful you brought that up, because I'm feeling that too. I'm feeling the global, all of the mothers, and, feeling protective of their children, and the fears that are attempting to be born through these kinds of things. And so I'm grateful you brought that up, because we also need to be sensitive to the here and now and what's going on and how it's relative to this story that you wrote. So. Yeah,
and it's such a deep and dark, and at times of pain we want to come together and light candles and cry and mourn and share. So I wanted tonight to be a kind of a prayer of truth and transparency, of that we look inside and hold that candle into our own darkest aspect with the prayer of healing, that we can break from this, because as each and every one of us begins to awaken our awareness to our own shadowland, then the power that these dark ones have to initiate these programs over and over is going to be lessened and lessened. And this is a real power that we have, and something we really can do, because at moments like this we feel so impotent and helpless to do anything at all.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think that the work is to glimpse into ourselves and see where we are not present, and to respond appropriately, and how when we're in automated mode, this allows the dark forces to cling on to those untapped darknesses in ourselves. And so,
Beautifully said, Elizabeth. Yeah. Really beautifully said. That's exactly right. And, So we'll carry on. And
yeah, I'm gonna, because what's interesting is synchronistically this passage in the book that I'd like to read next flows right into what we were just talking about with looking inside. So I'm going to go ahead and read this passage, and then I have a question for you about it.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Oh, I'm having fun. This is exciting for you. I've never done this before, so
I know, and I want everybody a round of applause for Elizabeth. She's stepping up. Christina's off. This is a groundbreaking moment, and you're very brave and courageous, and you're a very real and beautiful goddess, and I feel very blessed to have your support and for you to dive in here tonight, because this is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I put a lot of effort into really feeling into what was written there and finding those places inside of myself and relating on that level, and it impacted me quite a bit. So yeah, I'm really.
That's what I love about you, Elizabeth. You're coming from this being very authentic for yourself, and that makes it a lot more challenging. But then you're the living embodiment of what we're on about, and so I just want to honor you for that. I want to support you for that. Okay.
Yeah, all right. I'll read this passage now. Thank you. Okay. In the mirror, my face is no longer my own. Oh, let me preface this by saying that at one point Natalie took a retreat to Arizona, a New Age retreat, and she's sitting down to her first moment to think to herself, and she's contemplating. And in the mirror, my face is no longer my own. My head is elongating, and I'm wearing a strange cone-shaped crown. It has a ribbon of colors inlaid around the edge. In the cave, the voice called me Nefertiti. It's her, isn't it? Great. Every madwoman thinks she's Cleopatra or some renowned queen of the world. Why not Nefertiti? I asked in a mesh of fear and disbelief. Oh, excuse me, this is Shamura responding. People are fascinated by past lives, but they don't really understand how it all works yet. Past lives are an inadequate description of how souls carry their stories from existence to existence anyway. Did you know that many souls can be patterned by the blueprint of key figures in history they know nothing about? The impact of lifetimes can anonymously spread across nationalities, even epochs like sea pods. Try to talk about that on the morning show. Why is Nefertiti appearing in my mirror? What should I do with her? I asked, wishing some simple explanation could return normalcy back to my upside-down life. Nothing. You're not directed by the course of this healing. The spiritual force inherent in life is doing that job. It's time for Nefertiti to speak. It will happen somehow. If not, it won't. First things first. Your own past must be screaming in your ears by now. Until you experience that for what it was, you're not going any deeper. This all depends on how thorough you're willing to be, Natalie, how committed. Pick up the magnifying glass and examine your own life from your earliest recollection. Trust that you will be taken where you need to go. At this point, Natalie was in so much pain and trying to recover back into good feelings at her new retreat dwelling. When reeling in came visions of Nefertiti, the wastress, which we'll get into, some monks, etc. Can you speak to this passage and what you understand about past lives and energetic courting through humanity over eons?
Well, there's so much more to us than we are allowed to know. And when we're dealing with the unconscious, as we know, there's layering, and that we also know that our psyches have been taken hostage by dark forces over eons. And so there are blind spots, and there are shutdowns, and there are all these maneuvers behind the veil because the dark ones are controlling the timelines, they're controlling the way that we can find these threads of ourselves, but that we know that the veil's lifting now, and we have the right to step up and ask our own higher beings, ourselves, to lift this veil and to see what we're really about. And we are connected to archetypal energies. There's the 12 main archetypes that are carrying the spiritual evolution of humanity. Carl Jung talked about this, all the great ones in the Tarot. I mean, George talks about it. Aisha worked extensively in this. We have actually multiple layerings of archetypal realities or subpersonalities. Every person does. Aisha saw that as 4 personalities, and then a genetic archetype. And all right, let's talk about what archetypes are. And this was, and I just want to say that Aisha Love, this great woman, was her work is going to get out there someday. But her greatest work, and it's not really known what she did for all of us. And she did such a huge and great mission for all of us, because what happened in the 30 years that I knew her, where she was working very intensively in the individuation process, continuing the work of Jung into a very energetic female emotional quantum field, where these archetypes would surface in her life because life trusted her, because she had such a huge pure dedication to consciousness. And the archetypes are, first of all, the archetypes are created out of humanity's deep urge to evolve spiritually. And these are templates of qualities that have evolved over thousands of years to bring us to the next place in evolutionary rung. And what she discovered, that every time an archetype was born, it would bring the positive attributes, but the dark cabal would come in and infect and take them over. There was a hostile takeover of all the archetypes, so that every human carried the positive potential, but the biggest charge was in the negative manipulation. And so she went through huge battles and she went right up against, in her divine feminine spiritual warriorship, against these forces, and cleansed a lot of the archetypes, a lot of the big power forces laid down before the evolutionary impulse to move forward. And so I feel that she helped the Ascension hugely, because now the archetypes are allowing much more light in than they did before her work. And I just want to acknowledge her for that. So Natalie, and so each one of us, she's picking up the thread of a archetypal reality, and it's also a past life reality that she was a part of. And this is Nefertiti. And this is also autobiographical. Yes, this is a huge part of me, because what's happening this lifetime, as many of us know, is the place where we became heavily compromised, where we contracted to the dark side, where we crashed and burned, where our soul force was co-opted, where we became a part of the artificial construct and lost our soul force, where the knots that have tangled us in this web are coming up to the surface, and they can come up, as you know, in very unconscious ways. I think we're going into break here. Sounds like.
Sure are.
Okay, it's a huge topic, and I can't sort of overjump this, Elizabeth.
Well, we'll continue on the other side of the break. Yeah, let's continue on with that same questioning on the other side of the break. See you then. Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers with Elizabeth and Sienna tonight, and we're looking at the book that Sienna wrote called Stealing the Moon, and we were just talking about archetypes, past life recall, and energetic cording throughout the eons. Do you want to continue with that topic, Sienna, or?
Yes, Elizabeth. I think that the part that needs to be spoken at this point, something that you're very familiar with, is as these things erupt, because they're like cysts that are bursting for all of us.
Yes.
And so we can be suddenly put in horrific moods. We can be filled with evil impulses, and the origin of which we do not understand, because these threads being, our soul is calling us home to this ascension process, and we need to unwind these knots. We need to let the wounds drain, the poison come out, and to reintegrate the trapped fragments of our own essence so that we can, in fact, ascend. Because the aspect of us that is trapped in these false constructs that we have contracted to are going to be impediments. They are the impediments right now, in that, the mother is making her ascension, and the earth is making her ascension in this organic process, and she wants as many of her children to come with her. And so there's huge galactic alignments, huge energies emerging from the galactic core, and the planes that we're aligning, so that all that has been buried and hidden within the great tangle of our own unconscious psyche is hurling to the surface. And this is what the book is about. It's about one woman's journey, tracing, becoming the Sherlock Holmes of her own soul, going layer by layer and pulling that up. And because this is the point where this is the work at hand. And I know that you're deeply involved in doing that work yourself, Elizabeth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is where we need to go here. And I'm sensing that it's not just me, it's not just Christina, it's not just you, that many of us are having to open our eyes to that part that we suffocated, that we said didn't exist, the beast within sort of thing, the monster, the one that is out of control. The one that once that button is pushed, you're in blindness, and anything can come through at that point. So yes,
yeah,
the cysts.
Well, this is the jet fuel for the ascension, and this is the thing that we need to keep in mind and not be frightened of any aspect of ourselves, because the Cabal has made it, in its cleverness, programmed us to hide the dark side, be repelled by the dark side, defend it remaining hidden, fight, our egos fight to the end to not reveal this aspect. We hold on to our positive image. We will, if we're really strong positive archetype, we will kill to hold on to our positive image. It's like all we think we have is our, we're good boys, we're good girls, and we will do anything to maintain that. And this is how they have us, whereas it is jet fuel, the dark, because how are we going to get to 5D? We're going to alchemize both sides of duality. The dark is the jet fuel for the ascension process itself. This is the fertile soil. This is how we're going to really get into the organic ascension, is to alchemize both sides to bring, and since we're so super addicted to looking at the light, the good parts of ourselves, and we're so frightened and we feel so weak and we feel so overwhelmed, and to deal with the dark, we don't have the skills. We just super avoidance, denial. Why? Because all of ourselves that has been held down, they're feeding off of. They're gonna lose their food source when we get, oh, wait a minute, that's just the biggest yummy candy bar, and I'm jumping in there. And now people are starting to get, oh, wait a minute, this is just the opposite of everything we've been taught, where this ascension is going to happen. It's not going to just be smiley faces dancing into the light.
Yes. Yes. And it seems like the darkness is hidden in those traumas that we've all experienced. That's where we kind of tune out and lose ourselves in those traumas that we won't look at.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the defense mechanisms that come about as we grow older and act those things out in a defense mechanism kind of way. So
because we're trying to avoid the pain.
Yes.
Because what we're doing is we don't want to face the pain, and this is so true of all of us. It's really true of women, Elizabeth, because we've been through so much pain. We need acknowledge that there have been thousands and thousands of years where we have been held down, like our great Mother Earth, tortured and abused and maimed, while we were made to hold the space, to nurture and to give and to grow and to help thrive the men and, everything, to just keep pouring our energy into be the givers and the helpers and the caregivers over and over, while we're being suppressed and we're tormented and the tear of it. We're exhausted. We all have, yeah.
The interesting thing is while one goes through this process, there's this feeling of aloneness. And yet, in the book, you reference Natalie connecting with Mother Earth around the time that she begins to excavate the core of her darkness. So it's, as you bring up Mother Earth in your discussion, it's, appropriate at this point in the book. Natalie connects with Mother Earth,
It's so important. It's so important because, and this happened because, as I said, the book is autobiographical. Everything that happened to Natalie happened to me, but I strung it together in a story that would allow people to digest it in a way that I felt I needed to do in that fashion. Mm-hmm. But this happened to me because I had a 10-year period of time. I was in the Baja. I was completely alone. I was living at a certain time in shacks with no electricity and no running water, and praying and long walks in the ocean. There was nothing but me and nature. And I would walk out with Ma and screaming and crying, and I could feel the waves of her love pour up from her to hold me. It was palpable, just being like held in a wonderfully soft and nurturing mother's arms. But I had to strip away so much before I got to the point that I realized how deep and profound she's holding us. And we know she's holding us with the oceans and with all of the beautiful fruits and the vegetables and everything that she sustains us in the 3D. But energetically, she's holding us in a huge love field. And we all can access this at any moment. We are not alone. This is what the construct wants us to feel, because it's done such a great job of isolating us. And then we're so locked into separate, cement edifices, staring into neon screens, and all of the perversions of the electronics and the transhuman addictiveness to these mechanical dependencies that we feel. Of course, this is what happens because we have generational abuse to heal. Our mothers were often, abused and betrayed and shut down, and they didn't have the mothering. So we have chains of deprivation, and that's all outlined in the book, how that woundedness occurs and is passed on, where we feel we just cannot stay connected to organic life. That's the bottom line. That's the message we all get. We have to start making the cosmic mommy and daddy instead of father, son, and Pachamama. We lose that connection, and we get connected to we self-medicate with electronics. We self-medicate with drugs. We self-medicate with alcohol and pot and sex and work and codependent relationships. And it becomes bigger and bigger and more horrible and more horrible. And our real soul essence, that thing we need to bring back into our bodies in order to move to this next level where there is real organic light flowing again through us. We're running from, as though it were the plague.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too. In the book, you reference, these energetic forces that come through reclaiming our divinity, that come through Mother Earth, such as emotional and energetic forces creating weather changes and things like that. Is that revealing maybe a hidden talents of alchemy, or also the vortex areas on the planet? Natalie had huge breakthrough on this vortex area. So I just kind of want to feel more into that connection with Mother Earth that we've been so separated from with all of the transhuman agenda. I want to kind of bring that about a little bit.
Well, we want to return to an alignment, to a reunion with life itself, is the Great Mother, which Sophia Gaia's expression of the Great Mother energy that is holding, sustaining all of us in this, in the galaxies, in the universes. And the thing is that we are all a fractal of that, are we not?
Yes.
And this is the thing that we need to really grow up and have a look at without freaking out. And that is, we are a fractal of creation herself. And we have been suppressed, and we have been demonized, and we have been brutalized. And so that energetic creatrix force has become a force of destructivity, and so Natalie experiences, and Shimura, she experiences, the sort of harp effect. And not that harp isn't real, not that we're not getting on the outer manipulated, but the force of the feminine, as it is fragmented and disowned, has been taken over and used as a force of destruction. The female divine feminine is currently on this planet used to fuel, because women have the force of nature. Men have lost that force through all of their attempt to dominate and control. It's no longer in the male connect, because as you abuse life flees from you. Women have the juice, they have the psychic force, they have the emotional force, and they weren't allowed to use it. And this is what Natalie discovers. This is what Nefertiti is telling her, is I allowed myself through a severe abuse to have this huge creatrix force be co-opted. It was taken over by the patriarchy, and now I am a weapon of mass destruction energetically. I create horrible weather on this planet. I destroy life. And there's all kinds of, because we are the, which is a bad word, but we're witches, in the good and the bad. We have evocative powers over the forces of nature. We are shamanesses, and yet we're out of control and completely dissociated from this. And now we're talking about the divine feminine. Isn't all wonderful, and it's all love, and it is. But we need to clean this piece up. We need to find these energies and bring them back into the love field with the mother. And she's willing for us to do this, but she wants us to do this work. She wants us to face what happened. And it was not our fault. We were co-opted in horrible terror, horrible abuse. She does not blame us for what has become of us. But this is the story of stealing the moon. As you read this book, Natalie uncovers step by step through Nefertiti coming back and speaking and taking her into the history of what happened, how this force was turned. I mean, Nefertiti became a hitman for the patriarchy, a hit woman. She did horrible things, and so she'd get in deep, intimate connection. When she could be close, she became like a bat widow. She would destroy, and she had no idea what this destructivity was. And not that we all have the level of depth but just a greater, lesser extent, particularly through our ancestors, because every race has been co-opted. Through our ancestor being taken over, we all have a part of us that is a part of this inner police force, inner destructivity. So
Natalie starts having visions. Nefertiti comes to her, as I read earlier, and starts, the story unfolds as the book goes on between Nefertiti and Akenhaten and the seven sisters, or the seven daughters that they'd had together. And apparently Nefertiti and Akenhaten weren't able to bear a male child, which was to take his place. And so he decides to sleep with all of the daughters in an effort to bring about a son. within the family, and says that he's got Aten, who is their god of that time, the one god, inside of him, and that he's going to birth a son out of that one god. And that was kind of where the destructive force came about, to keep their kingly state, to keep his kingly state.
Well, he got confused. He got taken over. First of all, it is evidenced through history that he had a disease, that he was in a lot of pain, and he had deformity, and he was suffering with huge physical pain. And this was a very evolved creator, an aspect of the male divine that was had come down. Of course, we all agree to come down, and experienced the huge challenges of the darkness. And so, we always have to remember, thank you very much, these are the huge lessons that we are here to learn. But we forget that we're learning them, don't we, when we take on these contracts. So he forgot, and he started blaming the mother, because the earth, the body, the pain, he started having great hatred for the third dimension and the mother, this reality as he was born into it. And then he got the messages confused, because he was a divine immortal being. But you know that the Cabal is all about creating this transhuman immortality. This artificial, they're terrified of the organic process. And this is part of they are terrified to be in the organic flow of life. And he was in such horrific pain that then the priestly caste started channeling through him. And he had these men surrounding him, these black magicians surrounding him, that were informing him that, first of all, only he could connect with the source directly, because, in monotheism, you could not connect directly to the divine. You had to go through the priestly caste. They wanted to consolidate all the power to control the organic process so that they wouldn't have to feel the pain of birth and death. They wanted to be immortal souls that were privileged to bypass everything that being human is about. They lost any kind of appreciation for this. Then, and in order to do this, they became dissociated from life. Therefore, they needed to vampirize the life force. And what the life force is embodied in the female aspect, the beingness of men and women. And so then he was being directed, because I believe he was being mind controlled by the priestly caste, to incest, to suck the life force, and in that way pattern all of the seven women, the seven sisters that came in, and they were supposed to be different aspects of bringing the divine feminine in. That was supposed to be a quantum leap and a time when the light came to the earth. This was his intention, and they embodied all of the principles, and now we are at the same cycle again, where the divine feminine is rising up, and the principles are to embody a quantum leap into uniting with life, with love, with compassion, with higher consciousness. But now we have the imprint of Akhenaten's era waffling through us in this unconscious muck. And so now we have the false love and lighters coming in that want to create a false ascension process. So we are actually redoing Egypt now. And that's why we need to look at this period. We need to look at what went wrong and what happened to him. He totally got taken over, I believe, by the Dark Cabal. He got completely misinformed about what he was doing, and he became a madman. He really felt that he was the portal to the divine, and having sex with his own daughters was the only way that they were going to gain this kind of connection with God.
And he even went so far as to say that it was the female body that is in error because of his damaged body. He blamed the woman. He blamed the woman.
So did all the priestly castes. I mean, look at, if you study history, I mean, they really women were evil all through the Bible, because this was the beginning of the whole patriarchy, of the whole biblical time. This is the insane Jehovah demigod that co-opted through this whole reptilian agenda everything here.
So let's get into the complicit female. The one that says, I want to remain your love. I want your love still. And I'll just close my eyes to what's happening here.
That is really, that's a really good point, Elizabeth. And that's a huge topic, isn't it?
It is huge, yes.
Because now they're manipulating this huge urge that the male and the female have to merge with each other. And it is in the female essence to just be the love. That's all that the true female essence wants.
Yes.
And so we have this huge devotional aspect, because this is where our alchemy to move to the ascended level of higher awareness is in merging with the male, is being totally there to love the male. And yet, because we have been blindsided by seeing that these men were complicit with a agenda to destroy the feminine psyche, we are now devoting ourselves to these mad, insane perverts, and we're giving them our life force to perpetrate their agenda. And isn't that what's happening in many, many cases? And then there's the additional Benny that we get to not feel our pain anymore. We get this artificial construct, this reptilian agenda. It's a false power. It's an artificial intelligence, and we join with it. And then we have power over, and then we don't have to feel the pain. And so many of the power the Hollywood movie stars, we see this in all the elite, and then they're creating a yearning, of people to be as sold out, as false, as artificial, and to wield this artificial energy as though it is the ultimate goal of fame and fortune, and where you get. And all of this, it's being modeled everywhere, isn't it? I mean, it's all falseness. Yeah. And the real agenda is getting real. It's becoming real women again. And seeing what this is, it's a huge seduction. And underneath it, a gigantic inversion of the life force, which is what I'm calling perversion. There's power and pure. There's a perversion. It's not like you're bad and wrong and you're a perv. No, it's actually the reverse spin. They're taking the life force and they're vampirizing it, and they're using it for evil, to enlist more and more, to feed more and more. And we can break free from this. We can break free from it, but we have to be willing to pull the blinders off and see it full on, not just in the outer world and the governments and what's going on in all of this, although that's very important, but in the inner world, how are we hooked into it? And that comes from, in the book, Stealing the Moon, you have to unwind it, right? Because it's all hidden. And the core contract are from these key lifetimes where we were co-opted. And for Natalie, for myself, it was this lifetime in Egypt with Akenhaten and what happened to Nefertiti. She became a mad power bitch, basically.
Now, Natalie also, she had so many visions during these clearings that she was going through during her retreat on this vortex. It was really interesting to see what came through. In between Nefertiti's visits, she also had visits from the wastress. And I'm going to read a passage here. I was freezing, the wastress basically throws Natalie into a deep freezer. So I'm just going to read this passage. I was freezing next to shelves of vials labeled current DNA, waiting alongside plastic-wrapped deformities of women hanging from meat hooks in icy rows. Looking into the test tubes, their mouths began to move. Icy echoes crackled. Too much pain. Don't judge. Had to mutate. Didn't know it would be passed on. Couldn't take it. Tortured. Forgive us. Too much pain. Female essence mutated. Now, the wastress throws Natalie into the deep freeze after pointing out that she owns stock in the Ground Goddess Cafe, which is another place that Natalie visits in her vision. Through complicity, she owns stock in this Ground Goddess Cafe. And that complicity played a huge role in the suppression of the true essence expressions of humanity as a whole, not just the feminine, but humanity as a whole. And I kind of want to speak about that a little bit more. That how does one own stock in a place that well, let's talk about what the wastress was.
Okay,
so we're going.
All right. Okay. Hold that thought.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Exposing the hate and exploring the love. This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
Welcome back, Shadowland Voyagers. Your experience, perception, and questions are deeply appreciated here. Join the conversation. Call in at 213-233-3998 or 888-832-2027.
Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers. We're at the top of the hour, and this week we're going to forego phone calls and chat and all of that. We're basically speaking about stealing the moon with Sienna Leia. It's just Sienna Leia and I tonight. So we were talking about the wastress, and I want to get into that a little bit because we're really getting more deeply into our own shadow at this point. So you want to continue on that, Sienna?
Yeah, and if we're going, too fast, back me up here, Elizabeth, because this
no worries. This is awesome. You're doing great, Sienna. Yeah.
You too. I really appreciate the space you're holding. I really do, Elizabeth. Okay. This is so hard to speak about. I mean, I don't know if you can feel the energy is just really brittle and harsh.
Do you want me to move on to something else and we'll get back
No.
Right. We'll walk.
That would be really not what we need to do. No, I just wanted to make conscious that the energies, it's got like going through a collective barrier to even speak this out into the matrix right now, because the wastress is her bottom line negative archetype. It's her bottom shadow. We take this as we unweave, as Natalie in the book Stealing the Moon goes layer by layer down into her unconscious. She first encounters the trauma and the pain and the injustices and the victimhood of her own childhood. And she brings love and she brings light and she brings compassion to that. And we need to state this here, Elizabeth, because the way that we transfer such horrible evil within ourselves is that first we understand that we, first of all, contracted with the dark side to challenge us because we are universal creators of light. At the end of a cycle, many of us about to graduate, and we came in wanting to be challenged to the max in this level of darkness, because we are going to integrate all the dark there is and all the light there is and all the experiences we've had, so that as we go on to become the creators and creatrixes of universes of light, we know all of it, and we make choices. And this is where maybe we have some free will, in that we made the choices to come in and to forget and to have these huge restrictions imposed upon it. And one of the most difficult challenges we face is facing the evil inside of ourselves. And at that point, it is the great initiation, because in doing that, we truly begin our ascent back to light. But because the impact of it is so devastating, the first thing that we need to learn is this unconditional love. We have to have a bigger vision and understand the bigger picture of who we are, so that when we descend into this level of total destructivity, it doesn't destroy us in the process. So I wanted to say that first of all. And so we go in layers. We explore our woundedness. We explore our victimhood. And then we explore our perpetratorness.
Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers. We're talking about the book that Sienna wrote called Stealing the Moon. And we were just talking about once Natalie reaches that the core of her shadow. Do you want to continue with that, Sienna?
I really do, and I'm feeling into, again, the collective tonight.
You are spot on.
and thank you, sweetie. And this collective wound that we're all experiencing with this horrible death of 20 children and teachers. And so this is, again, we're faced with a huge predator at loose in our collective. And, we demonize the predator. We hate the predator. We don't understand how the predator could do anything like this. And so the thing is, and we know about the super soldier program. We know about taking people and depriving them of all human contact and immersing them in video games and torturing them and beating humanity out of them until they can kill with no feeling that and we also know, sexual predators, we have zero sympathy for sexual predators. And I have a very hard time with this still. And it's an imperfection, something I need to heal in myself. Because when you deal with a culture that has so bleached out the feminine, the touch, the nurturing, the loving, the physical contact, which is hardwired into our 3D bodies. When you starve an animal of his basic needs, he becomes a beast. And he becomes fodder for the archonic agenda, for the Witico virus, for the Illuminati cabal, and then they for the priestly caste that work through. Remember, these are reptilian vampires, and you have starved. You have starving people, and then you move these impulses and this mind control through them, and they will do things that later they have huge regret for. Yet it happens through people that are not totally evil, and we don't have any understanding of this or compassion for this or understanding how to help them heal it. And we can see it now in these shootings, because we know a lot of these are people on drugs, are people that are being mind controlled, and yet to some extent, depending on the level of deprivation and pain that a person carries, we are all susceptible to this.
So the predators are born of a wounded child, basically. It goes unhealed. That wounded child goes unhealed.
Absolutely, and they get taken over. They are co-opted. And again, I feel that, Akenhaten and Nefertiti were co-opted. I mean, her tragic mistake was her selfishness. That there she was for a minute, queen of the world, and then she finds out that this man that she was so devoted to is a predator of her own children and has humiliated her and betrayed her in front of the whole world, the known world at that time, and she flips out. It's all about her. Her tragedy, her fall is that she did not stand up for her children. Instead, she got so insane about her own betrayal, about the betrayal of her partner, who she felt was her twin flame, and her soul for utter betrayal in front of the whole world, that she became full of rage. And then he used her rage, actually, as fuel for his agenda. He would direct her rage. There's a part of the book, Stealing the Moon, where she is in a satanic ritual where they're taking this rage and directing it. It's a force of nature, and they use it to destroy the strategic targets that they have in mind. And this is what is actually happening to many of us when we're dissociated from this. So, and that was her fall, that she did not stand in defense of her daughters.
And so my take on it was that her guilt drove her to such madness that she was complicit and wouldn't act. No.
She would not. Yeah, she did not defend her daughters, and that's where she fell into the dark side, and she became a part of. She did not realize she had become a part of the dark side because she was so focused on what had been done to her. She was so it was a place to plug in that courting. Yeah. And that's a big topic right there. We all have these places. That is what shadow work is about, finding those places. Where do we get courted? And they're in the places of the areas we need to work on, the areas that are weak.
Yes, and so Nefertiti was showing Natalie through that story about her own story. And she found that she was, at one point she meets a woman out of nowhere named Ruby, and she brings about that Natalie has to find her. She basically says, Natalie, you're a dark sister, and that you need to come clean, and pound it into Mother Earth. She will take the darkness, and she welcomes the dark sisters especially back to her, to reclaim the divine feminine. Can you speak on that some?
That's exactly the process.
Yeah.
Because the good news here is that with all of these alignments, the love is pouring into the neural net, into the field, into all of our cellular structure, into every aspect of the unconscious. The divine feminine is coming to lift us, because now it's graduation time. We are steeped in darkness, which was the intention. It isn't a mistake.
No.
It wasn't an error. It was the intention. Now the light returns, the organic light, and is asking us to make this part of ourselves conscious, to offer it up, and she will. The mother will receive it back. And when this is the steps of redeeming the dark sisters. Why is it so important? Because in the darkness is all the energy, okay? The energy has been in the darkness. We need our energy to ascend. Mother Earth needs our energy to ascend. the fertile ground is bringing light to the darkness. And so, of course, she is welcoming us back. She's saying, own it, see it, pull off the veil. I love you. Are you brave enough? Are you true enough to see that you have become the darkest of the dark, and still you can love, and still you can return to me? She does not judge. And the process that I go through as I work with women on this, dark sisters, on this, is that they fully make conscious all the aspects of their personal and collective cords with the artificial construct. They see it all first. You don't overjump it, but then you offer it to the earth, and she does transmute it. You offer it all up, and you get the energy back, and you integrate it, and then this is the ascension process itself, because we're moving past duality. How are you going to hit 5D when a whole aspect of your duality is held in a blind spot that you refuse to look at? No, she wants us to ascend with her. So that is the process, and she is very much the alchemical transmuter. Well, actually, we are with her. Remember, we're a fractal of Sophia. All women are fractal. So we have the ability to alchemize this with her, but we do it as a co-creation. And in that aspect, it's also a co-creation. As we do it, we help her do it, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
I think that both of us have had experiences in altered states of Sophia is a woman. She's made a huge sacrifice to be this for us all. But she also is a sister who wants other sisters to do the work. That's what she's been doing the whole time.
Right.
And as we step up, she gets to have some camaraderie. She gets to have other sisters at the level of the creatrix where she is, and we reclaim our divinity actually by owning the darkness, bringing the light to the darkness. Yeah. And this is all, stealing the moon is an experiential journey of a woman who is actually doing this stage by stage, so that it holds a mirror and a template for you to activate your own journey through reading the book, which, by the way, has been completely sabotaged. I found out that many of the people who've been trying to buy the book over the last year couldn't do it because in many computers it was not opening in the right browser. The man who had created the website just happened to tell me yesterday that none of the links were working in many of the browsers. And then, of course, the man who published the book was stricken with he's on dialysis. If he's still on the planet right now, I've lost touch with him, and he had 5-way coronary bypass surgery the very time that he agreed to do this book, took all of the money, and nothing ever happened with the book for many, many years. It was, there have been huge forces to sabotage this information coming out because it has such a potent truth to how to really help augment what's trying to happen now, which is the return of love. It's the return of the mother. It's the return of the divine feminine, but it's the missing link to move through the shadowland in order to really augment this journey.
It doesn't surprise. I've heard a lot about things like this when someone wants to step up and speak their truth. They're being called to do so. The resistance is just brutal. On every level. And so this is an ongoing thing. And if we keep being persistent with, not letting these challenges knock us down or separate us from each other even. That's the thing, we're trying to come together, we're trying to get a message out, and all this stuff comes around trying to knock it out of balance and keep people separated so that they can't gather and gather their forces to say, now is the time to, for the darkness to come out into the revealing. That's what the apocalypse, they talk about this time being the apocalypse and the time of revealing, and it's just so much resistance to doing that, and yet it is, again, is the fertile soil. Thank you very much for the resistance. That is the soil, because as we are persistent in our knowings, you know, this is the time, and we push through that. The energy that we're wielding at that time, that in these moments is huge, and so, you know.
Well, we're so allergic to being real. We are we're allergic to being ourselves.
Yeah.
When you have an imprint that has demonized authentic feminine presence for thousands of years, and many of us have those memories as women of being burned at the stake, and not just that, of being tortured. I've taken so many women through that they weren't just killed. No, they would be stripped down naked and have to watch all their children being sodomized and then their limbs torn. I mean, the kind of trauma we're talking about, and it's still going on today. Yeah. Look at right before Christmas, right before the Ascension. Look what they put here for us all. This horrific torture. And
I really hope this isn't too negative, but I want to say this, you know, this has been eons where the children are being used to create these kinds of fear programs, and it's just horrific. It's just horrific. So
it is, and they're gonna, you know, they're gonna use it for all kinds of things, but the thing that I wanted to say is that we are allergic to being real. We're allergic to being ourselves. We're allergic to speaking our truth. And we know that every unhealed wound and every fear is a place for the archons to come through and to use us. And I don't care how conscious or how, you know, you know how it is, Elizabeth. You move through one level and another level's there. They're not giving up. And this is the super final exam at the super highest level. We know that all eyes are on Earth, that we are such amazing beings. We've taken this on. This is a huge, huge challenge. But at the same time, I don't even know what to say. I wish that people would understand the great joy of being real. How much more, because we're so bought into this falseness. We're so bought into thinking that avoiding pain is going to get us somewhere. And the great, juicy ride is in becoming more and more ourselves, regardless of who likes us or who is with us. Are you there?
Oh, yeah. I was contemplating what you were saying.
You know, don't be nice, be real. We are so addicted to being nice and being socially appropriate. I have had so many people recently tell me, which is, you know, I tend to alienate people a lot, and I try to become softer and more loving and more balanced, because just getting in people's face is not, in an imbalanced way, is not where it's at either. We can't just plow our reality into people, but I find people go, oh, people are listening. You can't talk to me that way in a restaurant. Oh, somebody just heard you. Oh, I mean, it's incredible. People who are even brave and bold and revolutionary people are suddenly getting into this. Oh, you can't say that. Oh. It's incredible how programmed we are to be false.
I mean, you know, I have a little bit of my own experience with that, and it's kind of what brought me to my knees, is that I found nowhere in me where I could express. I mean, there were so many rules put in place about how I relate to people, how I talk to people, what I say. Am I going to offend? Am I going to step on that landmine? Eventually, you know, I became like inoperable in every way. I had no voice whatsoever, because there's so many rules and regulations within relationships. There's not a lot of freedom to be expressive, to share, to, you know, even like if you saw somebody dancing down the street on the sidewalk, everybody's going to stop and stare. I've seen it. I saw a YouTube video where somebody was playing a musical instrument, and this girl who was with him, you know, she's like, I guess his daughter maybe or something like that, and she starts dancing to his music on the side of the street. And in the video, people are stopping and just staring at her like she's a mad woman. She's like 17 years old, just being in full joy at her dad's music, Pretty.
Yeah, this is the world we're living in.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, the mother wants us to be real.
Yes.
What does that even mean? The discovery of being real, isn't it? It's the greatest ride, and you can have to give up so much in order to do it, and be so persecuted and punished.
Right.
But it's the life force. It's embodying the life force, and until we decide we're going to do that no matter what, then.
Welcome back to Shadowland Voyagers. We're talking about Stealing the Moon, which was written by Sienna. And we're going to continue talking about authenticity for now. Sienna?
Yeah, and in this remaining half hour, I really feel it's so important. December 21st is how many days away? Like a week?
Oh, yeah, it's the 16th now, so we're like 5 days away.
We're 5 days away from December 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believe that a lot more could be happening now if we had not been so taken down into unawareness of the real process of ascension itself. And this is why I think that we are so addicted to this male authority, to the gurus, to the archangels, to the ascension masters, to the seminar leaders, to all of these methods. Now, people are going to go all over the world to power spots that are, a lot of them are actually inorganic portals to the organic portals, and just pour all of this false light, which is part of the control grid, which is a part of the archonic agenda, which is a part of the illness and the disease, pouring it into our mother, pouring it in, bringing in light in through our chakra systems and our crown chakras, and manipulate all this energy. And I just wish we could have the courage to just be ourselves and bring out our own light and be our organic selves. And whatever shadow pieces come up, be aware of them, give them to them, help transmute them inside yourself, ask the mother to help you transmute them to be authentic. I would like people to be doing a very real thing on December 21st instead of running into this wussy world of false light where it feels all good and we all think we're going to get to 5D, and we're not going to get anywhere but creating more bad vibes for this incredible being that has been holding this for all of these eons of time. And it's part of a great deception. It's part of the same old thing. And as someone who is consciously remembering Egypt, Akenhaten, Nefertiti, that's what we ended up doing. We made that great deception. We brought down the Jehovah, a false demigod, and sold it all to you like it was going to get you where you wanted to go. I mean, I was a part of that. People are just waves of people, this whole collective insanity, because people are so starved and they're so stressed and they're so toxic and they're so tired and they're so frightened, and we just all want to feel good, and all this stuff makes us feel good, and we're just replaying the same cycle. I don't believe that this huge change of age is going to go the way we want it to go until we're willing to be a part of the true alchemy that's required of us. And I feel the mother's holding space for us to do it. There's no judgment. I'm not trying to beat any of us up, but we have such a huge opportunity here. Universes are lining up to bring this love in. All we have to do is awaken to how to alchemize the complicity with darkness, the evil within us, to find real ways to do that. And, read Stealing the Moon, go to shadowlandforum.com, engage in that dialogue. We're going to come up this year, I believe, with tours and all kinds of ways to do that. We're going to be a hub of all the shadow work that we know of on the planet for people. So we're going to be having information and interactive things for all of you to do this, but do the real work, because the ascension is a very doable reality. All we have to do is bring both sides of duality into consciousness.
So I kind of want to go back to that idea of, Aten, the one God, being contained within Akenhaten and no one else. And there was a priestly caste hierarchical structure put in. I think it's important to kind of lay out what the structure is, so that maybe people will understand that the God within you is waiting to be discovered and expressed, and it cannot be done by listening to the one ultimate authority, whoever that is, whoever's preaching the one ultimate authority is keeping all of that on all of what you are externalized so that you never find it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The priestly caste are the archons. They are carrying the reptilian agenda. They are having you worship them, and they are feeding on your soul essence because they've traumatized you so deeply, and that you can no longer connect with yourself. And we have all become a part of this illness.
Yeah, it's like when you first start out, it's like there's no road to your own divinity. It's not going to happen until you travel the road of your darkness. And back, you unwind the thread back to the origin, because we are all fractors of the true creator, not these 4D demigod, false gods. We have to understand that we are being besieged with alien agendas and reptilian dark agendas, insane, psychopathic, alien agendas that are posing as God. And they're very clever. And they tell us that we're lowly humans.
Yeah, and that we need them, and they're going to come and show us the way, and we are so blind, and we are so nothing, and we need them to ascend. And it's of course we feel that way. We want Daddy to help us. We want Daddy to save us. We want somebody to come. We often feel just that we're lost, and we can't find a way. We need to come together and support one another into our authenticity. This is what we need to do.
Yeah. There's this fear, this really, this initial fear of looking at, taking responsibility for our behaviors, because we've all been complicit with the darkness. Every single one of us. That's like the infinitesimal point of being here, it seems, to, explore, all aspects of life. But looking at that, where we've been complicit, or where we've, closed the door, we were not going to look there, or where we've acted out in heinous acts. I mean, I have myself. I've had murder in my heart for sure. I've wanted to, I've had exploded in rage, and it's that first moment, where, because we all want that, we all have that desire to want to be enlightened and in a higher space than the everyday drag. And I think that first moment for me, looking and saying, okay, I have a choice here. Am I going to choose to blame everybody else for the state I'm in for my whole entire life? Or am I going to actually take a look at this? And the fear is so great to turn about face and look inside. And I'm telling you, life gets so much more simple when we are taking responsibility for our actions.
It's interesting you said that simplicity, because the path out of darkness is people who, dark sisters and people who have faced the dark side, their life does get very simple. Because they're becoming very real, they're getting born into authentic being. It is a state of rebirth into a real organic connection. It is the organic path. is into owning these dark aspects. It's really hard. It's really hard for these perpetrators to face it and to understand where these voices are coming in, not to listen to them, and to find love is the healer. Okay, love is the answer. We do not need to listen to the voices of destruction. We can hear these things running in our head, things that tell us to kill people and hurt people and maim people or molest people or sexual perversions that overpower us. And we can say no. We can say no, and we can understand this is not even us. We're in a radio replay loop with the dark cabal that is that is using our wounds and weaknesses to help us be their soldiers down here, to keep feeding them the fuel of the lives that we are vampirizing. We can be agents of that, and we can learn the steps. I mean, we can learn the steps to disconnect. That's not who we are. There is an inner child inside you, if you're one of those people, and you need to embrace that child and not, firmly say, no, that's not really what you need. What do you need? What that child needs is your love. You need to become the parent to your own child, this starving, abused, wounded being, and to grow this aspect with the feminine aspect, the feeling aspect of ourselves up. And as the child gets real soul food, it no longer is looking to the junk food. Once you allow yourself to really live, it means a shift in values. It means you start doing the things that really care for yourself, the real things that support life. You become part of the solution on earth. You become part of the emerging consciousness of radical self-responsibility and love. You emerge with the love field, and the ego and the inner child start serving this huge light frequency that we're a part of. The higher self starts directing the show, and the word, Christ said, give me the worst sinner. Why? Because that is the ground of being. That's the real connect back to the all and to the source. And this is the process. So it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how many horrible impulses are in you. Keep breathing. Keep bringing in the love for yourself. You don't even really need anyone else there. If you're completely alone on a desert island full of horrible, still break it, because the energy coming through the love frequency, the divine mother is returning. Huge. That's what this moment is, December. It is the return of this love for us all. So you are not alone. You are totally not alone. But if you're hiding in shame and in guilt and in addiction and horrible energies, then you have to go, wow, I got to get done with all this. I got to return. And then life will support you. Totally. It will totally support you in this.
That's the thing. It's like, we don't want to do this. We don't want to go into those, those stories again and all of that. But the honest truth from my experience is that I was living it every day anyways. I just wasn't looking. But that pain was ratcheting at me day in and day out. So, why not look at it? Because once you do, it doesn't run you anymore.
There's 3 steps in the new paradigm. It's to transcend. But first of all, it's a purification where you go, oh my God, I need to stop drinking 7 cups of coffee because this has got me so into the construct that I can't even connect with myself. Eating well, eating organic, natural, non-GMO, non-toxic, pure water, pure food, pure life force will bring you into that field. You're getting rid of, as best you can, to the things that have got you so in the matrix you can't even connect with your soul. Purify, purify, purify. And then duality, transcend. We have to realize that whatever we're in, this is the time of transcendence, which means moving into another dimension where we are all of it. We transcend with this huge unconditional love for all that is, because that's what we are. We allow the mother to live in the father. the true divine masculine, to live in us as us. Take the energy of the sun in this huge moment into you to purify you. Take the energy of the earth herself. These intelligences are here to support you. It's transcend, purify, glorious. And glorious is the birth of the new self. It's literally you're going to die. It's a death. And let the death happen. Let yourself go through that. And let it, because the death is the death of the ego. It's the death of the lower self. It's the death of all the falseness, of everything that's keeping you away from your direct connection to your own higher self and to life itself. And you can, the new archetypes are 13, 14, and 15. Transcend, which is the death card. The strength card, 14, which is the alchemist, and the 15th, which is the devil, which is all that has been unknown and seen, but it's actually the birth of the new, and it's the birth of the new through reclaiming all that has been demonized and held from us. This is the process that we're in now. These are the new energies. We're no longer in the 12, which is the Christ. In the new archetypes are 13, 14, and 15. Transcend, purify, glorious.
Wow. Wow.
And that was Aisha's work. And, that was what she discovered and what came through in all of those sessions. So we're in a whole different dimension. And you can do that through journal writing. You can do that through your own creativity. It's really, if you are isolated and alone, you can keep a journal. Ask your higher self to lead you through. There are aspects of your own archetypal. This is part of you. You're not bringing in You're not bringing in archangels or angels or higher dimensional beings. You're bringing in you, your own potential. But it does feel like higher dimensional beings, but they're part of yourself that you bring in to guide and direct yourself. So you ask your own higher self to bring forth the wisdom to bring your lower aspects through this process now, however you can. Of course, if there's ways to get together with other people, or, join shadowlandforum.com. It's a community. We're holding a very beautiful space there for people to engage in, very honest self-exploration. There are confessions of dark sisters. There are people really doing this work right there at the shadowlandforum.com.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. There is support out there. It just looks like there isn't when you're in the middle of it, but there absolutely is. Don't believe that for a second. None of us are ever really alone.
It's really important to realize, because this becomes so daunting when you are, if you're faced with huge problems in the outer and you don't even have a minute to yourself, if you're dealing with families and jobs and financial issues and health issues, so you take a little bit of time alone, get up a little earlier at the morning or stay up later at night, be with yourself, light a candle if you want. You don't have to, but get in a beautiful field of energy, make some beautiful music. Feel the love in you. Feel the love that is you. Ask Ma to help you. Ma being the divine feminine. Ask Pa to help you. The organic, natural energies, like the indigenous, not some artificial god, but the organic forces, they are here to support us in this.
Speaking of organic, every single thing that has come to me has been exactly what I needed at that moment to, see through. So it's not like I sat here and said, okay, I'm going to heal this trauma, and I go and seek necessarily for that. It's in relationships that that are put into my life at very particular times that are actually the catalyst for clearing all of that stuff out. So when we were talking about perpetrators and whatnot, especially as adults, it's harder and harder to call people perpetrators because, or victim. It's harder and harder to differentiate because we are all playing our roles within these relationships in one way or another. And so everything that is in front of you is what there is to do. Everything that you are working with is what there is to do, because we're each on individual journeys, and there's going to be different things that work for different people. So
totally. And the liquid mirror that Kelly Lachey speaks, and Jung speaks everybody who does shadow work knows, we're projecting the contents of our shadows onto the world stage, into the story that we're living, because our soul, we're here to evolve. And so everything in front of us, everything that we don't like in other people, everything that's irritating us, driving us the wall, the people that we see are bad, the perpetrators, the world, the things that really have a charge, right? The reactivity, the things that we super react to out there are often what we can't see in ourselves. Because remember, the shadow hides in our blind spot. We cannot see our own shadow. And so we're in a constant process of projecting the contents of our own shadow, making life circumstances, but then we don't even know we're doing that anymore. Yeah. And that's the problem. Then it's where we get really lost.
Yeah. But the life events definitely let you know. I mean, in the book, it almost had me laughing because Natalie experienced, like, as she kept resisting doing the work, all kinds of crazy stuff happened. Like, where is it? I don't know. It was just one accident after the next. And every single time she would be brought back to the work because she'd initiated it. So,
but then we initiate it and then we flee from it. Yeah. And then something explodes in the outer and we resist and we kick and we scream and then, oh my God, there it is. And then we own it. And then we integrate and we move to a whole other level and we usually get a little break and then the next thing shows up.
So that's the warning, I think, is, folks, once you start this work, there's not really any going back. Life will be like, no, come with me. So
there's no going back anywhere. Look at the level of evil that is perpetrating so much of this world that we're still living in. And you could look at it and go, that's all the unowned shadow of each one of us out there as a collective monster just dancing in front of us on the stage of life going, hello, and then, deal with me. So that is what there is to do. And either we don't do it, and then we're just going to keep creating this, whether we go to another third-dimensional reality, however this plays out. Whatever you're not owning is going to be there for you. So if you do really want to get done with this, then we have to do the work. There's no other way around that.
Yeah, there really isn't. Once you start getting called to do the work, that's it. And life will provide what there is to do, just in the relationships that you're having and little circumstances that come up. It'll budge you.
And for the men, there is going to be a huge balancing for the love that's coming in. We're learning that it's not all about us and getting our needs met and what we'd like to have happen and how much money we want to make and the vacation we want. Not that any of that is bad, but we're really being called forth to this higher love, to serving the whole, to being in situations and looking. This is how we purify the soul, whatever side we are on, how we purify all of this dark energy that is in our field is we decide, we make a radical commitment to consciousness that we're going to serve life, we're going to serve the whole, we're going to serve what is the greatest good for all the hearts in our sphere, whether it's our family, it's our job, it's our community, whatever it is. And in that way, our ego starts to learn that rather than it being about me, and me against you, and I've got to survive at all costs, that my survival really depends on all of us finding solutions. And that's, of course, the moment that we're in planetarily. And that's such a wonderful, isn't that? It's such a fun thing to do. It's such a high, exuberant, that's to me where the joy is right now, that this love field is growing so strong. And so many people are wanting to play in the service to others. And that doesn't mean you don't serve yourself. Right. You serve yourself in serving others. And no matter how dark you have become, you're welcome back into the family. There's so much opportunity for this right now that it's a very exciting, very dynamic, very juicy and alive time because there's a mass awakening.
In the
feeling